And so when I'm watching you guys go through similar stuff with the whole Bobby Lee thing or whatever, it's kind of like I'm recognizing that that's probably where you guys are at. You felt like you were under
Bobby Lee
fire.
I deserved.
Okay.
You know, Bobby Lee I love him, and he's my friend, and I was acting on bad information, and there were things, and I was protecting a friend, and the way I spoke to him was, and I've said it, and I said it right away, and I've said it to Bobby, and I've apologized unreservedly.
Right.
Because I love him.
And I've heard that.
I was fucking wrong. And sometimes in life, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you fuck up. And I fucked up. And in that moment, I was a bad dude. I was angry, and I wasn't angry at him. I was angry at something much. I was angry at the weather, and I was going through a hard time. And Bobby Lee was what got caught in my tusks. No excuses. No excuses. Unforgivable. Maybe we've texted and kind of like made things okay on text, but it may never be the same. And that's what I get. And if you up on the level that I did when I spoke to him the way I spoke to him, without, like, he didn't deserve that shit. He didn't fucking know what was going on. He didn't know. He was like, what? And I did that. Well, you know what? I'm a pretty good guy. In that moment, I was a piece of shit. And sometimes when you act like a piece of shit, you got to do the time. You got to pay the price.
When I watched how Brendan approached the Ariel Helwani thing around that time, as well as the Bobby Lee thing, as well as like a few other little things, I saw some of myself in that, where I felt like he was riding a high. He felt like everything was great. And so he started to kind of speak about his peers or other people in the same ecosystem as himself. He didn't necessarily show the same amount of respect that I feel like he's been humbled. I feel like he probably would approach those situations way different now. And I've been there for sure.
Nothing good comes out of that. I spoke to Ariel after that. I spoke to him about that. Ariel's like, what the are you guys talking about? Why are you coming after me? I got, what I do. I didn't do anything. And he's right. He didn't do anything. And we were just talking. It was Rampage, and I knew he and Rampage. And I think I brought up the fact that I said something about Ariel being sensitive or something, and that's not a bad thing. But, like, Ariel didn't ask to be brought into that. He's never said anything bad about us. Like, he wasn't, like, he didn't ask for that. So, again, when you have a podcast that a lot of people listen to, you can up sometimes, and you can say things, and that's again, when that happens, you've got to make it right. I like Ariel. I think Ariel's, I think he's a great reporter.
As an MMA casual, I've always been a huge fan of him.
He's he's a great reporter. Ariel is a guy who tells it like it is.
Right.
He's honest, and
casual fans like me really need somebody like him to be able to, like, observe his observations and be like, okay, he's probably way closer to whatever.
He wears his heart on his sleeve, and I think Ariel is here to stay. I think Ariel's going to always be somebody who is a very valuable contribution. So I've never had a problem with Ariel.
Right.
I would never get into this back and forth because I like him, and that's I've only interviewed him with him once or been on the show or talked to him. I can't remember what it was, but I don't have any beef with that guy. I don't want that. I don't think there's anything bad about that guy. I don't want any problems with him. So yeah, but that was a case where I think Brendan said some things, and it was like, hey, come on, let's not do this. There's enough of that. I never want to be part of it. I don't want to be part of it. I don't like it. First of all, I don't feel.
Okay, so first and foremost, you don't want beef with Ariel Helwani because Ariel Helwani destroyed Brendan's shop. So Adam 22 had on Bryan Callen, and they talked about the Bobby Lee thing. And once again, Callen doing the right thing, admitting he was wrong. However, there's still one thing that hasn't been addressed, and one thing Callen hasn't apologized for. It's not just necessarily going after Bobby Lee and attacking Bobby Lee, but in the manner in which they did it. Remember, they threatened Bobby Lee's career because they said they were going to go to Joe Rogan. That was what they said. They threatened Bobby Lee, his career, with, we're going to go to Joe Rogan and get you banned in a bunch of comedy clubs and no one will do your podcast. That was the threat. And Andrew Santino, to this day, still hates them and will not talk to them. Rightfully so, Andrew Santino is Bobby Lee's boy. But, I mean, that was the threat that Callen used against Bobby Lee. The threat of Joe Rogan. by the way, a threat that at the time Callen couldn't even deliver on because Callen's been canceled. So he couldn't even deliver on that threat, but he did make it. And like I've always said, if they did it then, how many times do you think him and Schaub just throw around Rogan's name? Not even like threatening people, but like just to get stuff or to get like an audition or something, or hey, your restaurant's backed up for 3 weeks. Can I get a table? I do know Joe Rogan. Probably stuff like that and stuff I can't even think about. But I mean, they're still talking about the drama well after it. But like I said, I would kind of like to hear an explanation for that using Joe Rogan's name against Bobby Lee. But let me know your thoughts in the comments.